Radical.
With my limited amount of free time that I have, there's only about a handful of NBA teams that I follow. Also in the NFL, there's only about a handful of NFL teams that I follow. So when it comes to the teams that I follow, two would be the San Antonio Spurs and the Golden State Warriors. Two of my fave teams on the west side, because I like following Curry. And for the opposite, I love watching Victor play. You know, not just because he's super tall. I just love watching certain players play, man. You know, Jimmy from the Golden State Warriors. He was formerly on the Heat, and even when he was on the Timberwolves, I love Jimmy's game. I love watching him play, man. But the Golden State Warriors got some devastating news. They got some bad news today. There was an MRI on the knee of Jimmy Butler after yesterday's injury, in which he was trying to catch a lob, I believe, from Brandon Podinsky, I think is his last name. It's problematic. I just call him Pods. And he came down, and if you saw the injury, his leg kind of buckled and went sideways a little bit, and he fell down in a lot of pain. And he was helped off the court. Whenever you have a player that's helped off the court, that's more than a bone bruise. It's a non-contact. So you know what that means. That is a sprain, a bad sprain at the best case scenario, or a tear. And it was his ACL. Jimmy Butler is one of the best players on that Golden State Warriors team. And he is arguably the second best player on that team. I think he's easily the second best player on that team. The Warriors kind of went all in to try to keep the window open for Steph Curry, because they felt they owed him that from being the greatest Warrior and also bringing them 4 different rings, 2 admittedly with Kevin Durant. And I think back on how devastating an injury it was when Kevin Durant went down with his Achilles, and how that pretty much sealed the deal for them. And then I think it was not long after that, Klay Thompson went down also with a leg injury. And that pretty much sealed the deal. And, well, that's years and years ago now. Since then, KD's been on, I think, 15 separate teams, I believe. KD switches teams like freaking crazy. But he's doing pretty good with the Rockets now. The West is loaded. And Jimmy Butler is out for the rest of this season and probably a good part of the next season. He's on a 2-year contract. Now, sometimes things happen, and it's just fate. Maybe Jimmy was meant to have this injury because he was playing against his old team, the Heat, of all things. Playing against a player that he got traded for, Andrew Wiggins. And you hate to see it for the team. You hate to see it for Steph Curry. And in the interview after, you kind of get the feeling Steph Curry kind of feels like it's over for the season. Unless they make some kind of a killer trade, take a big swing, and bring in an equivalent star to Jimmy, then I don't think they can compete in the West. Specifically against the Spurs, who are number 2. I would say, even though the record doesn't claim it, I think they're really close to the Thunder. The Thunder is a juggernaut in the West. You know, you got Houston to deal with. Lakers not so much, they're taking a slide down. But best case scenario, you avoid the play-in if you're the Warriors. You seat up maybe like 4th, 5th, 6th, and you avoid the play-in. Now, ultimately, long story short, what does this mean for the Warriors? Just to sum this up. This means unless they make a killer trade before the deadline, it would have to be one of the biggest trade. There would have to be lots of first-round draft picks involved in the trade, unless they take the biggest swing possible. Switch out a lot of their players for some more aging stars, some players that on other teams, they're looking to find their way out. I mean, Ja Morant, Zion Williams, Anthony Davis. They could just pack their team with a lot of question marks. Stars like Anthony Davis, who have a bad injury history. Ja Morant, I don't even know if that's a possibility. He's a really good player, but he has the issues, with all the guns and the fact he's kind of a dumbass when it comes to his decisions off the court. Maybe that's being harsh, but maybe it's not. Because I remember uploads I did about John Morant. Like, you don't have any solid fit on this team like a Jimmy Butler. No one can slot into that position because he's such a special player. The man is incredibly intelligent. He's very smart. He just fits into that system perfectly. And now what do? Who do you go to get? Some people have said, hey, try to go get Andrew Wiggins back. That's just going to be a step back because Jimmy was a lot better than Andrew Wiggins. Anthony Davis. Is that a possibility? Maybe get Clay back, but that's just feels like more of a reunion, final retirement tour than anything else. Oh, you put the band back together, but to compete? So they have a lot of choices to make. This is devastating news, though. I've even seen people bring up the possibility that Steph Curry should be traded. I'm serious. People have brought up this possibility since pretty much you went all in to try to get Jimmy, and now Jimmy's injured, and you got a situation where you don't think you can actually compete in the loaded West. How about trading Curry to another team? Possibly San Antonio Spurs? Possibly trading him over to the East, where it's a lot more easy for someone like Curry to get through and get to the NBA championship in the East than it is the West. The West is just stacked and loaded right now. Maybe he can make a hometown appearance. He could go to the Hornets, but even though that's where he's from, I mean, it's the Hornets. They're not competing right now. What does the Golden State Warriors do is the big question. And is it possibly something that leads to a rebuild? Could it be a blessing in disguise? I don't know if it's a blessing in disguise, but I will say it is slightly better that this injury happened before the trade deadline than after. Because what if they make a trade with Kuminga and they make plans for really competing this year, and they go all in to maybe make a trade for MPJ, one guy from the Nets they might need 2 draft picks for, or another player. The only player they should go all in for that might become available is Giannis of the Bucks. That's the only player you should put in 2 draft picks for and make the big swing. If they somehow was able to land Giannis, that's not going to happen unless Giannis actually just goes and tells the Bucks, hey, I want to go to Golden State. I want to go to play with Curry right now, and forces their hand. That's the only way this is a better scenario. But just looking at it as positively as you can, it's good for an injury to happen before a trade deadline, because then you can make the plans, you can make the best plans for the rest of the season and the season beyond after seeing the landscape of everything. Either way, terrible, terrible news, not only for the Golden State Warriors, but for Jimmy Butler, who is a great player, but he's getting close to being 37 years old. Anthony Melton, who came back to the Warriors after having an ACL tear, some people are saying, hey, he's still a real good player. He came back after it. He's in his mid-20s. Butler is over 10 years older than that. If you know anything about the human body, an older person heals a lot worse than a younger person, especially when it comes to sports. Because Jimmy's got a lot of miles on those legs, so there's more of a possibility for a re-injury, even if he does come back. Feel like, you're going to limit his minutes after the injury. So in a conference as stacked as the West, when you have the Thunder, the Spurs, you got Houston, even some of the worst teams in that conference. Oh yeah, the Timberwolves, I think, are really up there. It's stacked. How are you going to be competitive? And again, is an option on the table to possibly trade Steph Curry. As crazy as that sounds, I think they would trade Draymond before they trade Steph. No one expected Steph to be playing as good as he is. Not quite, I don't think, MVP caliber, but he is really playing very, very well in his own right. But to be in his late 30s playing as good as he is right now, not many people expected that. And yeah, I'm just gonna leave it right there. What do you think though about this injury? Is it the end for the Warriors? Even if they had a shot, is it the end for them? Is it the end for Jimmy Butler? Will he ever come back, being anywhere close to the player he was? And is it the end for Steph Curry possibly in Golden State?